Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. Today I'm with David Karasek from the Foundation of Freedom. The Foundation of Freedom do online events focused on teaching creative manifestation in our reality. Hi, David.
Thanks, Nick.
So how are you doing today in Switzerland?
As I told you, it's snowing. So I woke up in the morning and I look outside and it's the first night of the year. Yeah, we're having snow. So and remember when you were in Foundation of Freedom, we had to choose to have a symbol come to us that represents the winter, and quite a lot of us got a lot about snow, and so we're right there.
Yeah, I see he's wearing a t-shirt though.
This one.
Yeah, in the winter.
Oh yeah, but I mean I have the heater on. How are you, man?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. So, where do we start? So, would you say what has more of an impact on our lives, nature or nurture?
Nature or nurture? Can you tell me a bit more what you mean by like nature? I'm assuming you mean like being outside and
Oh, right. I need to be more clear because that's an English phrase. Okay,
could be.
so it's more nature and nurture. Obviously, nature is like the environment, but in this context, it's our the the predispositions we're born with, or the what we're conditioned with as we grow up in our society.
Then I would go with the latter. So I mean, intuitively from so nature or nurture, then I would say nurture in that sense is a lot more important if you want, because I mean, just imagine if you were born in, let's take Saudi Arabia, for example, right? I mean, your life would be completely different, but you're the same Nick, right? You would have a different name. You'd probably look a bit different, maybe have a, I don't know, mustache or something, but that's just
Ah,
but then your whole thinking would be different based on how you
yeah.
grew up, what experiences you made, right? So, yeah, so I really believe like once the DNA is one thing, but I mean, that it's hard work and it's what you are given and what you experience. I mean, look at sportsmen, right? They might have like good DNA to be a sportsman, but just talent is not enough. You need hard work, you need the right guidance, you need the coach, the good team, and there's a lot of things that you want to have in place.
I suppose like you can have like a potter and he can have the best material available, but the best equipment available. But if he's terrible at his job, it doesn't really matter that much. Although I will say that it's like the template we start out with, right? And that can make a big difference. But fundamentally, what we're it come, I feel that what we come into this life for, this incarnation, is to take what we start with and to sort of undo the limitations that we've placed on ourselves. Because the truth is, we have the ability to heal ourselves completely and to manifest in ourselves like what we desire, right? And it's just I was doing an interview last night actually, and apparently we were talking about Joe Dispenza's work, and what Joe Dispenza talks about is we really well, Joe Dispenza himself, he healed himself from a terrible, paralyzing um accident where his vertebrae got crushed. He completely healed himself with the power's mind, right? So, I mean, technically, I mean, someone with mental special needs mentally, right? Even they could potentially be taught these methods and actually, you know, get smarter and get physically more capable. Yeah. So
100%. Like, look, also these the most important things that we learn about life, they're not like rocket science. You know, they have existed, those principles, and how important the mindset is, how it changes, how you can up regulate and down regulate your DNA. Like, this stuff is, it's not rocket science to apply, like, you know, but it's not taught in school, right? Like in school we're taught, you know, do a bit of geography, do a bit of math, a bit of German, French, English, and but it's not, that's not like, how do I say, like, intellectually, it's left brain what we do in school, right? And so it's like learning by heart and then taking a test and learning models. But you know what, the common sense, or like the art of creating, is not what's taught in school, and that's not rocket science. So I believe almost, if not all people can do it. It's just like you need somebody that, you know, is putting some light in the dark, because you
yeah.
can find it on by yourself. It's just going to take very long. It could be like a process that you give up along the way because you have a lot of setbacks or you're confused. But with the right guidance, like, just imagine like learning math by yourself. It's going to take you a while, right? But if you have a good teacher and they're doing like work and they see where you're not good and or not progressing, let's put it that way, then it goes a lot faster. You have less trouble, you feel better. And it's the same thing with these arts, creating, being intuitive, healing yourself. It's you know, Joe Dispenza's work, I'm a big fan. And if you look at the audience, they're not like, I would say if they took an IQ test, they're not, you know, you wouldn't say they're all Einsteins. They're normal people that are there and they have the success with it. So that's proof that everybody can do it. It's not for just the few.
Yeah. And what this involves fundamentally is a principle that you teach in the Foundation of Freedom, which is mentalism. Could you tell us more about that?
Mentalism. You mean like, do you want me to speak about one of the natural laws, or
Yeah,
how? Well,
sure.
let's put it that way. Basically, whatever we create, by definition, creating is something new, right? And when we did the Foundation of Freedom, if you remember, when you look at the textbook of creativity, and you have like a ladder of the different levels of creativity, and it starts with unskilled imitation, it goes to skilled imitation, then to derivative, and then it goes to innovative, and then to genius, right? And if you look at that ladder, what you realize is the people that are low creativity, they imitate and they look at the outside and they copy something, and they might, like, you know, add their own twist to it, but it's always their outside reference. They're getting their clues from the outside, right? From something that already exists.
Right.
But then as you come to innovative or genius, that could be, you know, Steve Jobs inventing the iPhone, or the guy who invented Starbucks, right? That's creating something new. And what mentalism is saying, basically, that everything that we create first, like, exists in our thoughts, in our mind. And then it's for us, it's on us to, if we identify with that end result that we're seeing, is like we go and create it. And that's
Right.
one of the most powerful and the most um rewarding things to do, to create what you love to create.
I suppose when it gets to the higher levels, the genius level of creation, does it have to involve a sort of divine connection?
A divine connection. I haven't, look, I gotta be honest, I haven't made an invention that is life changing for the world as of now. But I actually, I mean, divine, you know, it's I would say we should not get hung up on labels, you know, like
Right.
divine or genius or um quantum field, like wherever it comes from. It's basically not coming, what I can tell you, it's not coming from your thoughts and feelings, from your perception. It's coming from, it's something subtle, like an idea, a connection that you make. And then it's on you to capture that idea. Like, it's like floating around, you know, like in, what I love to paint the pictures in Harry Potter, they play this, what is it, Quidditch, that
Yeah.
yeah. So there's like this one the most powerful of these balls.
Snitch.
Yeah. So it appears somewhere, right? And then they go and Harry Potter and the other guys, they go and try to get it, right? And then it disappears and it's really fast. So that's an intuitive idea. That could be it, right? It's something that's very subtle. It's there for not so long, and it's on you to have the awareness to capture that and be like, okay, and then see, where you go with that.
In Harry Potter, did he use his intuition to catch it in the end?
I think don't you win the game if you can? So that's how I remember it, at least. So you correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there, if Harry catches this little ball, then they win the game?
Yeah, there's a regular way to win, I think, and then there's the catching snitch, which is just a trump card.
Right. So that's the one I mean. Like, if you think about it, it's like, because when we're in perception that is informed by thoughts and feelings, it's very heavy. It's very obvious it's here, right? Like, I'm angry and I'm thinking this and that. It's very heavy. But the genius mode, or that divine mode, or the higher self, or whatever label you want to use, it's different. It's more subtle, and it's not so obvious. So that's why we're always saying you need awareness to see what it is. Because if you don't have the awareness, it's there, but you don't see it, right? Or take creativity. Right. One definition is that you can make, if you have more creativity, you can make connections that you or other people normally don't make. Right? So you're aware of more. And so that would be something that all of a sudden you're aware, like, oof, I see that coming from my divine being, from my higher self, whatever it is. And you capture it and you start to bring that into reality.
So what's the key to awareness?
So, yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing is you need to be aware that thoughts and feelings are not a representation of reality and of what's going on. They are real to you. And it's really easy to prove to another person, yeah, but they are real because last week I had a fight and I was angry and then I cried, I had tears. It was real, right?
Right.
And you can't argue with that. And you can just say, yes, they are real. But at the same time, it's for these people that are caught in perception, it's important to know that it's only the definitions that they assign at the time that bring up their thoughts and feelings for them, because another person might have completely different thoughts and feelings about exactly the same reality that we're sharing. Take a car accident. You have two parties. It's the same reality, but they're going to have probably very different opinions, thoughts, and feelings about it, right? So if you're in perception, you're not seeing, you're just seeing what you see. And especially when you get angry, it like closes like that, right? If it's normally like this, when you're angry, it's really tiny.
Right. So perception is a much more subjective thing, but it's your subjective truth. And if I understand it correctly, you talk about these I think it's 12 fundamental laws of reality.
Yeah,
but those are the objective. No, not the fundamental beliefs. That is something we can go into. But these fundamental laws. Mentalism is like the first of them. Mm-hmm. There's a law of vibration and stuff, right? And these are the laws of reality on an objective level. So how do we make sense of reality if there's the subjective truth and objective truth, and they all fit together with part of a larger picture? So, generally, a lot of people might say, well, it's objective or it's subjective. It seems to me that you're saying both.
Yeah, my question to you is why do we have to make sense? You said, how do we make sense of this? So the question is, why do you have to make sense of it?
That is a good point.
Right?
That seems to be my left brain talking, right?
I mean, look, but I mean, it's human. And I'm not no different. I'm just saying that's when we come to the planet, then we don't know that we're separate from mom. We don't know we're separate from anything, right? At the beginning. And then over the first 5 years on the planet, it's called the individuation phase, which is when your egoic vehicle develops. It's your body, your energy, your mind, right? Everything. And it creates an individual experience for you because you can acknowledge that you're having an individual experience, and so do I, right?
That's the answer. It's your perception.
Yeah.
on your level, that's fundamentally, it's like a symptom of separation,
Yeah.
or it's a distortion, or a lower imitation of creation on our higher level. So on our level, we create reality. If you're just working on regular perception, you're creating a reality around you from fundamental core beliefs and thoughts that you have and feelings that you have, but you don't even know necessarily that you're doing it. And that is completely on a different level. And I guess there's different levels going up, like with creative manifest. It's like what you said with creative manifestation. We do it. You said that we can do it just going off things that we see outside, and then we make more connections, and then we come up with something completely new. Well, the lowest level seems to be going completely on the outside, such that you just go completely on what you're taught from the outside, and then you just reflect back, and then you sort of like a pinball, you're like in a pinball machine, because you're not actively creating your reality, but rather passively creating your reality based on external influences. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Oh,
you know, this last point that you made based on external circumstances, that's exactly it. Like, look at, and I don't mean any disrespect, or, you know, because it was me a year and a half ago, and I'm not saying I'm there, but it's just that discovery that it's actually not your external circumstances. Because if you ask people about, you know, a project that didn't go well, or something that they wanted in their life that didn't go as they wanted, you ask them why and what happened, they'll give you all the circumstances that happen, you know, outside events.
yeah.
This happened and that, and then, you know, I had to do this, and there was no choice, and I felt I had to. And yeah, you know, it's a array, or, you know, of excuses, basically. And I mean, no disrespect, but if you're a creator, one of the first steps, what you have to, and that's one of the most powerful premises, is you have to know that you are powerful, and you have to take self-responsibility. You create it all. And it's actually really easy to, we use a tool that we did, the conflict deconstruction process. And if somebody guides you through this, you basically take a conflict where you went for something, or say you wanted something, you went for it, and you didn't get it, right? And the problem is over, and the end result was shit, basically. And then we deconstruct what happened in that conflict. And every time, no matter what conflict we use, we can show that it was you who created it, right? Not saying the other person are always good and doing the right thing, but it's still you who created the conflict and the end result. And
Right.
that's powerful.
It's more that we don't know. When people are saying, "Oh, it's this happened and that's happened," either, well, it could be, I guess, being dishonest with themselves, but other than that, it could be that they don't realize that they're creating it from their mind with mentalism, and they're just seeing in the simulation that we're in, they're just seeing that without seeing that the same patterns repeat because they are making them repeat in their lives, right?
That's right.
And that's the law of attraction, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is the law of attraction, and yeah, there's, so a lot of people, if you ask me, they only know half the truth of the law of attraction. And the alchemists, you know, they make out of lead, they make gold. So the lowest vibration metal, they make gold, which is the highest vibration metal. But then
Right.
alchemists also look at the hero's journey, basically, that we're born on the planet, we are born a king or a queen, but we don't know it, and we're in perception, and then until something happens, and then we start to wake up, right? And alchemists are all about that journey.
Oh, that story, that this the boy who he doesn't realize he's actually the heir to the throne, right?
Man, King
That's
Arthur.
telling us the whole time
Yeah,
we are the king, because it applies to everyone's here.
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
I just made that connection.
yeah.
All right, carry on with that. Carry on with what you were saying.
Watch King Arthur, the new one. I didn't see the old one, but the new one is with it's one of my favorite actors that I Dunham or something. It's funny, it's action, it's a good story, and you learn about the hero's journey. He was the king, and he had to because it was so dangerous for him, because he was the heir to the king. They, you know, exiled him basically somewhere else, and he didn't know until somebody came and you know, and he found out. And with Jesus, I believe, so I'm not an expert on the Bible, but I believe it was the same. He didn't know until someone came to him, John the Baptist, maybe? No, don't quote me on that, and told him about that he was Son of God. And the next day, the first thing he did, he made wine out of water.
Well, yeah, but that's the story that's the version of the story since like the Council of Nicaea and stuff. Like we don't know if that's the original. What I've heard is that Jesus was actually different in reality, like a sort of,
Okay.
and you know, like more of a sort of almost like more Buddhist in terms of how it's approached, right? But anyway, that's a digression.
I would love to have dinner with Jesus. Would you come with me? That'd be cool, hi.
You might be able to talk to Jesus. It
Yeah,
depends
I
what you
mean,
think about channeling.
yeah. I just had a conversation the other week with a woman, and she was saying she had that gift of speaking to, you know, people that are not here anymore, and when she tells other people, they think she's crazy, and you know, it's special gift, but probably tough to bring it, yeah, to confess to other people that this is a gift that you have, right? Because a lot of people think woo woo.
Yeah, I like I say voo voo, not woo woo.
Woo woo. Yeah, all right. Well, but we wanted to the alchemists. So I you know, with the alchemists. So yeah, that's what they're all about. This journey for us to find out that we're king, and then to, you know, get us there again in our creative potential, in our highest good, basically. And what they're saying, they have a saying that the half-wise will be dashed against the rocks by reason of their own folly. And that the law of attraction, a lot of people, they just, you know, they think, okay, I just imagine how I want something, I really feel it, and I imagine it, and I want it, and it's going to come to me. But it's only half of the premise of the law of attraction,
Right.
because that's only the vision. But to have a structure, you need 2 points that have a connection. So if you have the vision, you also need the current reality, right? And
The
so you
vibration.
have, sorry,
I'm wondering, do you need the right vibration to attract that? Otherwise, then
I,
you.
I think you need the right amount of awareness. So vibration is awareness, right? The higher your vibration, the more awareness you have. So if you have a lot of awareness, then you can really define and understand your current reality, what it is, right? What your limitations are. You are honest to yourself. You're not lying. You're not like making things nicer than they actually are, or worse than they are. And you have a vision, and then you have a structure, because you have 2 points that have a relationship to each other. And then, you know, you go into the mechanics of manifesting, which is very mechanical. It's not romantic, because it's structure, but if you know the structure, you can apply it.
Yeah, I think I listened to some of Abraham Hicks speaking, and funny enough, Abraham Hicks is actually a woman channeling Abraham Hicks as someone who's dead. So,
Wow.
but it's quite interesting. But but it's quite interesting teachings because it's to do with the law of attraction and stuff generally, and it's this idea. There was this woman who she was trying to tell this woman on the phone, like he was asking for the help, like you create reality, your own reality, and all this stuff, right? And they just weren't buying it. They didn't want the responsibility. They wanted to sort of pin it on other things. But then what happened is they went out with their husband, the woman they're talking to, who they went out with her husband like just on a day trip, right? And when they've been talking to Abraham Hicks, there were these three words that had been used, I think. I can't remember the details, but there's three things that were mentioned. And then each of those three things were in her mind and they manifested in reality, like a whole bunch of butterflies appeared. And then there was this like this boy came along and gave her something that was mentioned, and then like she saw some. So basically, I can't remember the details, but essentially, all these three things that were mentioned, she actually came across, and the third thing happened, and she was like, "Oh," and then she realized she had created these things because they were in her head, and she had actually, yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure I've explained it at all as well as Abraham makes. The idea is basically that based on our own vibration, we attract our own emotional frequency. We attract into our reality what reflects that. So in a way, my perception is that we perhaps we need to start raising our frequency. Then we can be concerned with the mechanics of it. Because otherwise, if you just start with the mechanics of it, you'll be attracting negative things based on your negative frequency.
I would, if a, so you're absolutely right with, I mean, right, that's how I feel as well, right? With raising the frequency, that the vibration, that will do you good, that will do good for everybody you interact with, that will do good for the whole world. So you're in service of humanity. If you raise your vibration, and absolutely, like, you know, with the work that you do, with the work that we did together, like all these things that people we connect to, that helps raise the vibration. And you know, it's needed in when you look at the state of this world. It can't hurt, right? So it's good. What I would say is, though, for you, and this is very, very important, and it's a truth, is that for you to create what you love, there needs no condition, there's no condition that needs to be met in order for you to create what you want. Okay, because people think that they need confidence, that they need a high vibration, that they need a good wife, that they need a lot of money, that they need to have more knowledge before they can start creating. And it's not true. Because look at, I wrote like a little piece the other day about Robin Williams, the actor. How is it that he was so unhappy with suicidal thoughts to the point where he killed himself hung himself in his apartment with his family, I think, to find him? But he was one of the best creators of the time, right? He made beautiful movies.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So
I suppose
we have no excuse not to create, because if he could do it with all these, and he's not the only one, right? I mean, there's just no condition that has to be met for you to create what you love, because you will create. If you create what you love, guess what? You will have success.
you just need to place yourself within that space of love that you have. And even if overall you have a low vibration to say, you're going to be moments when you really feel love, right? Everyone have moments like that. It might make it easier if you've got high vibration, but fundamentally it's still possible if you don't, right?
Yeah. But let's take, let's take this podcast for an example. And let's take you as an example. If you know that there have to be no conditions met for you to create what you love, and what you love, tell me why you love to do this podcast. Why are you creating this podcast? What's your intention behind it?
Well, if you ask me why I love it, it's more that I just love it. um,
But see, that's the beauty of it. You just say, I just love it. You create it for its own sake. There's no agenda to why you do it. That's like a
there are
painter.
reasons. I do want to help serve humanity. And my original intention was that I understood politics and I understood in a holistic way, or at least somewhat in a holistic way. I understand ideology, especially what it's like to be in one. But I'm out of that now. And I understand that there's all this social division and that unity on a spiritual level is important as well, right? So from ideology to unity, I understand panpsychism or pantheism, the law of one, sort of these kind of ideas, these kind of mystical ideas. And I feel like if I could contribute towards mending their social divides and awakening people, even a little bit, that would be great. And if I can talk about stuff I'm interested in that I love, which is I love my spirituality, and I do actually love understanding the world and reality, and that includes political stuff. Like I have this love of understanding truth or wisdom. Well, I just understand how everything fits together, right? So if I enjoy that, I might as well just do that. And I find doing this, I feel a lot more alive than if I'm just playing computer games and watching stuff. So I might as well, right?
Might as well. I completely agree with you. And what I'm saying is you create what you love because you love it for its own sake. That creates success, and success is sexy. And what happens to when you have more followers, when you get the message out, when you're sharing, is like you raise your vibration, you learn more about spirituality. It's not that you need to know so much before you can start. You just start creating, and then are you going to have it perfect from the beginning? No. Does it matter? No, because what a creator does is you start creating what you love, which is a very strong, if you have that structure, again, vision, current reality, and you're honest, you have a lot of structure, tension, which is good. Tension is good, and that will move you towards your vision. But as you go, you adjust, but it will be easy even if you have a setback, because you're focused on the end result and because you just love it. You can always refocus on your end result.
Right. So it's about creating change, right?
Mhm.
And I guess that's where time comes from, because it's ultimately created from the change from one state to the other based on what divine creation, manifestation, right?
And
That's
I
just
love how
a
you say it's change, and it's not problem solving, it's change. It's something new. You're not looking at a problem and then fixing a problem and become a problem fixer and like problem solver, because people pride themselves with being good problem solvers. But do we have time for like a 2-minute story, right? It's a
sure.
good one. In Ethiopia, they had, I don't remember if it was in the 80s or in the 90s, they had a very bad famine. People were hungry. And what I want to explain with the story or illustrate is how solving a problem is like an oscillating structure, like in a rocking chair. So on the one side, you have a big problem, which is the famine, right? And so, the media came, they took a lot of videos and pictures, and they posted it all around the world. And nations across the globe, they rose to the occasion, and they spent millions of dollars, for Ethiopian kids and adults to eat. And then the food came to Ethiopia, and they figured everything out, the politics of the food actually got to the people. So the people got to eat. And what happened? So the hunger or famine went down. There were not a lot of people that were hungry because they had food. The interest in the media went down. Then the coverage was down. That means there was no donations from the world at a later time. And a couple months later, the same problem came back, and it was even worse. And there was the same famine again. So that is a oscillating structure of having a problem, taking action to make that problem go away. Problem goes away, and then you're on the other side because problem is going to come again. It might be the same one or a different one, and you just go back and forth and back and forth. And instead of having a vision to create what I really want to create, right? Does
I've
that
got a
make
question.
sense?
Yeah, though, do we manifest collectively, not just individually?
Never thought about that. I don't see why not. I mean, you mean like if you just imagine if you had a group of 10 people. I mean, 10 people are more powerful than one. And if you come together in like what we call a magician circle, where you let go of control of everybody else, and you surrender to their power, and you give the best that you have, and then you align on a vision. I mean, yeah, doing it with a group is a lot more powerful and probably faster and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. What I meant is, I was more imagining on a societal level, perhaps not even consciously, that but people might be manifesting based on their frequency. They might be manifesting bad things to happen, like say famines.
Right.
I don't have any evidence of this. I'm just wondering, like, if individuals can do it in their lives without realizing, then maybe whole societies can do it.
Mm. I mean, I would, as above, so below. I
Yeah.
mean, those patterns. Yeah, I think so, because when you look at Well, a good way to describe is basically if you look at the river, how the river floats, the water is taking the path of least resistance, right? It's flowing, but then the path of least resistance is given by the structure of the river, of like where it's going, right?
And you affect the structure by you might
Exactly, because
your
if you fix
beliefs
it
distort it.
exactly, and if the society has a structure of like consumption, for example, right, or and like
Right.
making more money all the time, that's like a structure, and change will only happen if you change that underlying structure, not just putting like some rocks in the river or something. That will not, that will
Right.
just
Otherwise, it would just be changed within the stream. But to change
exactly.
the stream as a whole, that takes more work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so something else that I feel might be relevant here is that so this is about the nature of reality that a lot of people don't seem to know. And is it linked to Plato's cave?
Natural law, you mean?
Yeah, the knowledge of people of natural law that people don't have, and then when you come to realize it. And
Nick, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The Plato's allegory of the cave, I usually, you know how I use it? I mean, for the people, do you know how it goes? Kind of?
I'll tell the story. Go ahead.
Should I? But I'll do it really quick. But the point for me is, you know how we cannot force people to try to go into a higher vibration if they don't want to see certain things, like it's okay. Like force isn't going to do it, right? So with Plato, when they're sitting, so there's a bunch of people sitting in a cave, and from the back, there's shadows that basically are cast against the wall towards the exit, and the people are scared and they just sit in a cave and don't go outside. And so there was one courageous guy, let's call him Nick, and Nick is like, "Fuck this! I'm going to see what's out there, right?" So Nick goes out, and at first you get out and you look at the sun and like blinded for a little bit, but then you're out there. What would you do if Nick is out there? What would you do at that time?
I mean, if I just discovered it, I'd probably come back and try to tell them about it. It's amazing. There's this and there's that, and then they'd be like, "You're crazy.
That's
There's
right.
no way that's there."
That's right. And what I would suggest, because what you could do is you could go to the beach, say to the beach, you can get a little tan, you can get some bananas, you can take a swim, feel good, get really ripped, and then go back to the cave and bring him a banana and a coconut and tell them, "Yo, guys, there's look, I'm fit. You have like maybe like a Hawaii shirt, I don't know, like something fun." And you show them. It's not
Show
like
them
you
the
just
benefits in a way
show
they
them the
can't
benefits.
deny.
Yeah. And then there's inevitably going to be people there that say, "No, I'm scared, you're crazy," and they're not going to come, right? But there will be one or two, maybe your brother, maybe your sister, I don't know, somebody will be like, "Fuck, look at him, he's looking good, he's looking happy, I want to have a banana." And he goes, and then there's 2 or 3 or 4 of you, and you do the same. And so, but what happened in the allegory is like he came back in the cave to tell the people, and he was killed. So
Well, you have to take a risk to potentially change the world, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be too afraid to step out yourself and run a different.
Yeah. But so the allegory, I often use it as illustration of how we can't force people, but how we can just try to be not even role models, but just try to just be the way you are, because you've changed, and either they'll pick up on it or they won't. Maybe the timing is right, maybe it's not, but putting energy into converting or pulling someone out, it's just not very rewarding. It's no fun. It's yeah.
Right. I suppose with my podcast, like I can focus on speaking my truth and putting my voice out there, but I don't want to have trying to drag people kicking and screaming into believing in the law of one. I mean, that's not going to work. It has to be me exploring and offering people to join in that exploration if they want, right?
You're gonna go crazy otherwise. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried for a while because I didn't get it. Because I was like, "You gotta know this, you gotta," and then it's like one opinion against the other, and you can imagine I mean, I would say everyone that's on this journey towards higher vibration at some point or another has had that situation where you wanted to speak to somebody about, one of these topics, and the person was just absolutely against it or had a complete different opinion, and you felt like, defensive after that, and energy was low. I mean, it's part of
Yeah,
the journey.
we learn about like having a higher vibration, but it doesn't mean we don't slip up and go back to our old selves every now and again, right?
Yeah. I mean, that the ego, if you think of perception being informed by thoughts and feelings, and our ego taking care of our individuality, and you have your superconscious, your higher self, then I mean, a lot of times we're in our ego, we're human. I mean, we're having I mean, you don't walk around, even if you're a creator, you don't walk around and you're always connected to your superconscious. It's not happening because we're human, so it's okay to have, and it's cool to have thoughts and feelings, right? Like, it's just knowing that the feelings that come, they're not a representation of reality. They're just, it's informed on your past experience, and it doesn't matter for you to create. That's like the most important point. It doesn't matter if you feel sad or angry or super good. For creation, a lot of the things that you create, oh look, take this. I've spoken to a lot of parents, and they ask me what I do, and I explain to them. And when you ask parents, most of them, if you ask them what's like the biggest thing, or the one thing that you admire most about yourself that you created or that you're proud of, right? They'll say their kids. And when you look at being a parent, it's not just fun and happy, 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 happy all the time. It's like hard work. It can be, it can be sad. You can be angry. It's hard work, but the creation is beautiful and worth it. Right. And
Mm.
so creating is not always like happy, 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 fun, fun, fun. It's not. But then if you have a feeling that not so is not happy, 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 that doesn't mean that you're on the wrong track. You just stay focused on what it is, and because you create for the creation of it, because you love it.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned the 12 fundamental limiting beliefs. So would you like to go and outline what they are and what
Yeah.
role they have?
Do you remember what are yours?
I went back to it and I changed my mind.
You changed your mind.
I felt like I hadn't been, and I'd kind of missed, because sometimes I put more time into considering like what my limiting beliefs were. Like, I think I suspect I started off when I was young with I'm unworthy and I'm not good enough, which I don't like to
Mm.
say because words of power. Uh, Especially, I suppose maybe I'm not good enough more so, because like there's this often like I suppose my dad was often expressing displeasure at the way we were at this, that, or the other. There was quite high expectations and often wasn't meeting them.
Yeah.
Um, and that was made clear. But then my mum was like communicating that from him. So she was a messenger. So maybe that had an effect as well. Later on, though, I think what I clung to was this idea of there's an objective way of things are. And I was smart. And I came across like the Myers-Briggs, and it said that I had like one of the rational personality types, right? So I was like, oh, I'm really rational, right? As because it's compensating for insecurity about actually about my lack of accomplishment or whatever, right? And my insecurity about feeling not good enough or unworthy. That's my theory. So my theory is that then I clung on to, okay, there's a way things are, and I know what it is because I'm smart. And I was got fundamentalist and like, the way that's number 9, isn't it? So there's a way of doing, there's a way it is, and how it is. It's not about how to do it, but just what it is. And you can kind of get dogmatic about it or even manipulative to try to convince people. And you don't
convince
necessarily
yourself.
realize. Yeah, and you do it
Convince
to yourself as well. So if things don't fit that, you ignore them because your identity is based around there's the way things are. If it doesn't match that, then that's threatened. And then you might get angry
That's right.
at other people who've got other ways they believe in other things,
Mhm.
the way things are, and that's a
Mm.
threat to how you feel. So in fact, a lot of people that number 9 is actually quite common actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's me. I mean, there's other things as well, but I think those are the key ones for me. How do you explain what these principles are?
Absolutely. I mean, look, there is so important. And here we're not, when we speak about the 12 fundamental limiting beliefs, then we are basically, I mentioned the vision before and the current reality. Then we're speaking about the current reality. Where are we coming from? We're trying to understand, or we're going to understand where we're coming from. Because when we can see what those patterns are, we can then choose to change it, to create, to put the power somewhere else, and somewhere else would be in the creative facilities, right, in the higher self. So the 12 fundamental beliefs happen in the individuation phase, because you come to the planet and you don't know you're separate from anything, and you create your individual experience, and every single one of us makes this up. Like, you come, and based on your experience that you're having as a kid already in the womb, and then in the first approximately 5 years, you make it up. So for example, if I wasn't breastfed, so I was crying a lot when I was young because I didn't have enough food. But then, so I asked myself, why, or the baby asks itself, why am I in pain? And then you come up with a belief, right? My mother, I'm not worthy. I don't belong. You know, whatever. I mean, I have the 12 here. I don't think we're going to go in all 12, but we can speak about the ones that are most common. Let's put it that way. And you come up with that belief, and that belief is then set in stone. And the ego becomes dedicated to prove that this belief is right for the rest of your life. And you can't really get rid of your limiting beliefs. They can be like stronger at times, more prominent, or not so prominent, depending on, you know, what's going on for you in the world and your situation. But they're always going to be here.
What can you do then?
What can you do is you acknowledge them, you learn about them. You're like, oh yeah, this is me, because every limiting belief has compensating strategies. Because look, if you have and this is, you know, the importance of those limiting beliefs. It's not like, oh, I came to planet, I was a little bit in pain, and yeah, I came up with a belief, and yeah, I have it. It's not like this. It's for life and death. Because imagine in the animal kingdom, if you have a zebra, and a young zebra is left behind because it doesn't belong, it's going to be dead in a couple of hours.
So this is survival mechanics.
Oh, survival. If you're a baby and you're in pain, you cry because you need help. If you don't get it, if you don't get the attention, you're going to die.
Right. So if you move on from, if you no longer cling on to survival so much, is that a way to not make it not? Perhaps it won't apply to you so much, even if it's true. Maybe it will just have less of an impact in your life if you're not clinging to your ego's fear of death so much.
Well, yeah, well, but what I would suggest, it's actually easier than that, because it's easier because if you understand what's going on, if you know you have the belief, I'm not good enough, right? It's father derived. So from about 2 years to 5 years, if you got a lot of praise and a lot of attention, a lot of acknowledgement from your dad for doing stuff well, like walking, running, riding a bicycle, you know, swimming, and so on, you're developing that belief, I'm not good enough. Because you only get acknowledgement and energy from your dad when you do stuff well, for example.
Right.
So if you have that, and you have your compensating strategies, like taking course after course, you're always having, you know, that you're good, but it's never good enough. You know, you're running into a burnout or you are always, this is one for me. So I'm future oriented. I don't really care about the past because I can rationalize away, okay, the past is the past. But there's other beliefs that are very much in the past, but I'm not, let's say, but I'm always often in the future. I'm like, okay, I have calendar open. What can I do? Because I'm never good enough. There's more and more I can do, right? So when you know this pattern is going on for you because you have awareness and because somebody told you, then you can choose to say, okay, it's okay the way it is. I don't need to fix myself because these beliefs don't go away. But what I can do now, I can choose to put the power somewhere else because the belief creates our reality. And if you know what the belief is, then you can just say to your subconscious, well, I should explain that a bit different because
These are like channels that we can put our energy into. And if we just direct less energy into it, it doesn't have so much impact, even if it's still there.
yes, exactly that. And that's it. Look, if you think of this subconscious mind, which is this super powerful computer energy of ours that they say works between 40 million bits of data per second up to 400 billion bits of data per second. That's what I heard, right? Compared to our what we're like self-consciously aware of, it's between 40 and 2000 bits, right? So
It's
you
like a
have
matrix, right?
yeah,
And this
huge.
is, I have this idea that maybe this is like, if you think about the chakras, this is like the third chakra, which is, and below, like the sacral chakra, yellow ray. But if we can get to the heart, well, the heart is like apparently has its own brain, right? Its own neurons. And if we can open our heart, then we can fundamentally operate on a different operating system, right? And we don't have, just because we've got the operating system doesn't mean that needs to be the main one we use if we upgrade. What do you think?
Agree, and I agree, and you create your own because I mean we were given like a basic operating system when we were born, like how with astrology, how the stars and the planets were, there's like a basic thing, but after that it's our creation. We made it up. We like came up with and let me just the limiting beliefs, because you nailed it when you said that we give them less energy. Let me just finish that thought real quick because it'll make a lot of sense. If you look at that subconscious mind that is so powerful and can create anything, how it works is the subconscious is like a fertile soil, and whatever seed you drop in, it just says yes to it and it grows that. So, and it doesn't have any moral like ethics or so it's not like there's no code of conduct for the fertile soil. It's not saying, oh, I don't like potatoes, I'm not growing potatoes. It's like whatever comes in, it says yes, and it creates that in reality. And so now the question is, what kind of messages does the subconscious get, right? And that's where it's getting a constant message from our beliefs that we have, and from those 12 fundamental limiting beliefs it gets messages. They're always going to be there, but the trick now is that there's also the higher self that gives a message, that can give a message to the subconscious, and you put the power into that, and you use free will and choice to do that. So when you recognize your limitations, the messages that the limiting beliefs send, you say, okay, it's cool, I get it, that's how it is, that's what you're sending, but I choose to put the power in the message that comes from from my higher self, from my genius, and that's it. And then that's what's manifested. And that's why, for example, affirmations, if you are a weak person and you tell yourself 10 times in the mirror, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong every morning, it's not going to work because your subconscious isn't stupid. And a person that is strong wouldn't tell himself or herself 10 times, I'm strong, I'm strong. So you're just taking a message coming from your limitations and you're making it actually stronger by giving it more power, by denying it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the correct, which way of doing it is more effective?
To just say that to know that you don't have to fix yourself. You can still work on the limiting beliefs and do some, but just to know that it is what it is, to understand it, and then to with free choice to put the power into your higher self, and to connect to your higher self. I mean, we did exercises in Foundation of Freedom. It's based on intuition, because you're creating your self-referenced. It's coming from within you, right? So and you just choose. You really, like, you choose what you want to create, and you put the power by choosing. And we do that daily. And when you're coming to Foundation of Freedom too, that's where we're going to get you to that system, and that's it. Free will.
So
That's
do you
what we
picture? I
humans.
mean, from what I remember, I did a Joe Dispenza meditation last night, and like, is it like you really, really picture the change that you're seeking, and then you just basically, as you said, you make a connection between the current state and the change state, and you manifest that. But you don't need to just tell yourself again and again in the mirror that you need to truly picture it, right?
Yeah.
So someone who's got a lot of negative, so when people go through a dark night of the soul and they have to do shadow work, how do we navigate that using the 12 limiting beliefs or knowledge of it?
So the way we do it is, so the dark side is actually, when you think of the dark side, it's often, if you could implement in life what your dark side is, it would be oftentimes it's one of your most beautiful, beautiful aspects of your persona, basically, or of your being. I mean, when we did the dark work, personal example on me, what came out was that I have troubles expressing my feelings and emotions that are very positive towards the people that I love most, people that are close to me. It's kind of fucked up, but I can't really tell my dad that I love him, but I can tell somebody that I meet, and I can tell them I love you. It's so that was my dark side, and I don't think that has. I mean, yeah, I guess it is connected with the limiting beliefs. I never thought about it, but the way you're raised, I don't know, I guess my dad never, did he tell me that he loves me? I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, maybe that's the answer.
Maybe that's the answer. Yeah. It's all connected anyhow, right? But the dark side, what you suppress, it's, or the,
Right. So,
yeah.
okay, in Jungian psychology, there's this idea of, so your ego identity, it identifies with certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and you identify with a certain way, but you have the whole totality of human potential within you, right? So anything that, and this is a sort of template that he called the collective unconscious, these archetypes. Now, anything that is part of you, but you don't accept as your identity, is in your shadow, your subconscious. So essentially, I guess what it would suggest is that if your ego is made out of your limiting beliefs, then if there's something that's like the opposite of one of your limiting beliefs, then that would be in your shadow, maybe. So maybe, I don't know, like if you feel like you're unworthy, maybe in the shadow it would be like, I am the greatest or something. I don't know, I'm guessing. But it's certainly in Jungian psychology that, in fact, it's reflected in people you come across. Like, if you feel those you dislike the most are actually reflecting a part of you in your shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you're like identify as really clever, right? But then the people who just, maybe in your shadow, there's a part of you that just like hates um people act like they're smart, and it's like, it's simple, it's like this, stuck with your instincts, don't think it through. Um, and then you come across people who just like, I mean, that's just one example. There's any example, basically. Yeah, in fact, the what you judge others for and what you fear in others or dislike in others, those are the signs that tell you about your own shadow.
Yeah. That's why it's also in the way you see in what you don't feel validated with, right? I strongly agree with that. But that's coming from an egoic perspective. So that's not from your higher self, right? That's like you you feel in unvalidity, or like that you're not perfect, or that you're missing something, and you see that in others, but it's like always under the assumption, and that's really like the important point, it's always under the assumption that you have to fix yourself. But that's what, like, if you look at the human suffering on the planet, it's coming from perception, because it's our ego that is trying to fix ourselves somehow. We don't feel viable, we don't feel good enough, we don't feel worthy, and we're trying to fix that, and we're taking action to fix that, right? And that's really like the pain of, not the pain, the cause of most of human suffering. It
Right.
really,
but perhaps,
so,
yeah,
yeah,
perhaps acknowledging
yeah,
part of you that your ego rejects allows you to transcend that. And maybe that's how you integrate your shadow, and that you don't need to completely fix yourself, but rather just acknowledge that it's part of you. And then it's within your conscious, right? It's not
right.
just,
Because what does it do? What if you acknowledge something that's like very essential to your being? What happens when you acknowledge?
well, your awareness is expanding
Yeah.
to that.
And you're taking power away from it. That's it. Because if
Right.
you deny it, you give it more power. If you try to fix it, you make it like a problem, right? That needs to be fixed. And that's like the mindset where it's at. It's like trying to fix the problem. But I'm telling you, like these patterns, that's why they're called fundamental limiting beliefs. Because one of them is, I can't trust myself, others, and the world, right? Let's take that. You don't meet people that have that belief, that can't trust, and then all of a sudden they have like 10 people around them, and now they say, oh, now I trust, now, oh yeah, now I trust everywhere. It doesn't happen. Or people that aren't good enough, that feel they're not good enough, they're always taking action to compensate for that belief. So they're always going to do achievers, they're always going to be future oriented. They're not going to say, oh, now I'm good, oh yeah, I did this and that, I'm good enough. It doesn't
The
happen
limiting
like that.
beliefs are what we compensate for.
Yes, exactly.
Overcompensate. Right.
Exactly. And so acknowledging what it is and seeing what you're doing because of that, because of those limiting beliefs, it takes the power away from you, because you acknowledge it. You're not denying it. You're not trying to fix it, but you can see those patterns in the next situation. You can say, oh, this is clearly my compensating strategy. And you will be, if you really think about it and even maybe write it down and so on, you will see that those patterns repeat. That's why the people you attract in your life, there's going to be like, why are they so similar? Why is the same things happening? Because it's you who creates it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's something else we could explore, which is why. Actually, no. I talk about the left brain and right brain quite a lot, and I've talked about it a number of times in recent episodes. So maybe not that. So if we look at society as a whole, so this is what we can do individually to help, like not fix ourselves, but get past the limiting beliefs. But if we look at as below, so above, as above, so below, if we look at society as a whole, well, how can we help work together with others to do the same kind of thing with regard to how we organize reality, how we organize, societies, how we deal with issues like the COVID scare and political divides and all these things.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you asked this question, and feel thankful, grateful that other people, actually also think about it, and so it helps me as well. So thanks for asking the question, and I hope we can explore this together. What I would say is that when you think about the different life dimensions that there's like your personal space, what's going on like for you in your head, right? And then you have your social dimension, is the people that you interact with on a first name basis, let's say. Then you have your environment, which is more, I don't know, if you go to work, if you live in a town, if you do sports, like your situations, your environment. And then there is universal, which is what's happening on planet Earth, let's say, right? Like COVID. And so you would think that a lot of these, like COVID, is like so far away that you can't do anything about it. And I can't tell you like how we're going to solve these kind of problems. What I can tell you is the way a creator does it, we're, as creators, we're thinking, what do we want? What's the end result, right? What is the end result? Which I have my end results there. And every day I was like, I choose the end result of da-da-da, and I make my choices. And what the cool thing about this is that if I know that I want to raise the vibration on this planet with people like you, with people like Simon and Brenda and everybody else that we meet along the way, I don't need to know the how, because the how that will come if you have the vision, and if you have the truth and you hold that tension, the wisdom is going to come. Alchemists say you have truth, love, and on top is the vision. It's like a pyramid that pushes up the wisdom. Truth, love pushes up the wisdom. Because, it would be cocky, arrogant, or so for me to say, I know how to get out of this. I don't, but I know what my end result is. And I know the next steps for me to take, they become obvious. And doing a podcast with you, that's like an obvious thing. I love doing that. I know it's going to help people. It's going to help people. And so, we do our best, but just hold the end result in mind, what you want to do, and the how will come.
Okay, so I've had a realization as you've been talking, and it does link to what you're saying, actually. We hold the end result and we focus on so we get in the frequency of love, or maybe beyond. We get in the high positive frequency, and we picture the change and how we get there, and we just sort of we think about the change, and then reality does it for us. And so it's about how manifestation works, and we can do that collectively. If we're dealing with collective quote unquote problems or issues that we face, or things that could be changed, well, one thing might be group meditations on group manifestation on a collective level. So the more people collectively manifest together the certain changes, whatever those changes are, the more we can bring it. So it's mentalism, right? I'm just applying that on a larger scale. And what I hear is that the more people meditate together, it multiplies the effect. So it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. So I guess that seems to be maybe at least one of the answers. So we don't need to, we could come up with the answers in the 3D. We could come up with, in this typical cause and effect sense, and we can come up with all these steps that we could take. But if we know that really we create our own reality from mind, then why play with the simulation to fix it if we can fix it on a more encoded level, right? If we can focus it, instead of playing on the 3D matrix, if we can change it on the 4 or 5D matrix, right? And manifest the way manifestation really works. Yeah, we could change things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. And it's on, people like you, me, people listen to the podcast, everybody else who's in this type of work, right? It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about this type of work. And the more the more people are waking up to that realization that, yeah, that whatever you just said, there's hundreds ways or thousands of ways on how to achieve it. And meditation, I'm sure, I mean, there's a lot of research on it that people coming together, they like fucking change a whole village. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, whatever works, and it's on us to get the people to do that, because we're like just one step.
Yeah, about getting people, about helping to organize that, I suppose. Would you agree with the idea of bottom-up organization rather than top-down organization in order to do this? So instead of telling people, okay, this is what we need to change, if we just help people organize to collectively manifest, then maybe that's all we really need to do.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, for me, that is already speaking about the how again, like, because when you do that, it's like you're basically excluding then the top down, which for me, it rings more true to do a bottom up, but I don't want to exclude top down, because what if you have, I mean, if you watch King Arthur, I would serve a king like King Arthur, like in the movie. So, if you have somebody there, and I give you an example of what they did, I believe in Uganda, they had big problems, I think still do, but what they did is they took volunteers that wanted to learn about structural change on how to create like visions, not fix problems, but create a new community. And so what they did, they took them to America, they educated them on how to change the structures to create what they really love. They went back into their villages, they emerged as leaders, but not as top down in the traditional sense where say you got to follow that guy, but because they knew that the guy has knowledge.
They inspired people too.
Inspired, and out of love, they created a vision. Like, we want our kids to have education, we want to have clean water, we want to have enough food, we want to be self-sustainable, we want to have a booming economy. And you wouldn't believe it, but within like, I believe like 2 years or so, they had everything in those small communities, while the country as a whole was still in the shit. The economy in those little communities was booming. They had new wells, they had food, they had schools, they had everything. And so that, so they didn't know the how, but they knew what. And then with everybody else's wisdom and ideas and help, and they created something completely new. And it was not based on fixing problems, but on creating something new. And you just have to you have to be okay with not knowing how, because that's, again, our ego is here to give us orientation and to know how it is.
Right. So we're creators, and we can tap into our higher selves, essentially, right?
Yeah. And maybe
we don't need to know all the details.
No, we don't. And maybe also collective wisdom here, right? At that point, where we can tap into not just us, but when there's more people in the room and connecting about like a higher, like the end result of a beautiful community. All of a sudden, these people, when they're in those high vibration and you come together, all of a sudden you have like a bigger mind, and then
the superconscious.
Yeah.
If you can tap into the superconscious and maybe feed into it as well, I'm not sure how that works, then the more people start doing that, the more we collectively fix things as a whole. Yeah. Well, no, not fix things, change things.
Change things better, much better. I like it.
You see, it's even with me, like, it slips in, right?
This
conditioned way of thinking. So, I mean, we've covered all my notes pretty much. So, I mean, is there anything you'd like to add to sort of you hadn't got around to mentioning, or that really sums up what people could benefit the most from with regards to,
absolutely. I mean, when I speak to people about this topic, I try to make it as easy as possible. And really, the first thing that comes to mind is just that the thoughts and feelings are not a representation of reality. And when you're okay with that, right? When you're okay with accepting that this is the case, when you're ready to explore more, then there's like that's where intuition comes in. And when you become more self-referenced, when you start to understand, and if that could be the last message, is that we are born, the hero's journey is we are born as a king or as a queen. In the mythological sense, it's always a king, right? So it doesn't mean man or female. But then we are brought up as peasants. We don't know that we're kings,
Okay.
right?
I so it's like, here's the thing with the whole coronavirus, right? Corona means crown.
Yeah,
Maybe it represents
man.
the kinghood and queenhood that we all have, and the awakening to knowledge, to the consciousness that we are all, that we all are that, that we all are kings and queens. Yeah, maybe we realize, it's forcing us to realize who we really are. It's the sword and the stone, and it, yeah, and more people are taking the sword out, right?
I love the picture you paint right there. I love that. And I mean, right now, when you look at coronavirus, this is a great opportunity. This could be like the event or the Weisman that comes and tells you that you're a king, because that there is more than what you are being fed, right? What is being fed into your perception. Like, it'd be a beautiful event to start to say, okay, what my perception is giving me is far away from the truth, and there's better ways to explore the truth, okay, without like having to fix yourself. And so that's why this whole process is actually fun, because you start creating without having any other conditions in place. You just start creating, which will bring you success, and that's sexy, and you will create more, right? And that's positive feedback loop. That's really, really beautiful. So why not use coronavirus for you to jumpstart that journey? I love that.
Right. Yeah. So, well, I think that's a good point to end this, really. So, thanks for coming. It was a great conversation.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I enjoyed it as well.
All right. Bye then.
Bye.